Welcome to the Piece of Me podcast. This is your space for all things peace, positivity, and finding balance to live your best life. Life gets busy, and at times it's messy. I'm here to help you clean things up and put peace back in its place. I'll share tips, ideas, interviews, mindset shifts, and fresh perspectives to help you along the way. Hi friends, it's Lexy Leigh. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new, then welcome back and thanks for coming back to the podcast. Today's episode is one that I have wanted to talk about for quite a while. Now, we have a lot of women and men that listen to the Piece of Me podcast, so talking about milestone birthdays has been toward the top of my list, especially when I look at the demographics of our listeners. So flirting with 40 just kind of fits right now. I turned 40 earlier this year, and just saying that out loud, it doesn't even sound right. I don't feel 40, but maybe that explains my love for light jazz music and cozy bathrobes and the need for good skincare. Now, all kidding aside, it was just different. Now, people have talked about the stages of their life from their 20s or 30s, but nobody really talks about the transition that happens at 40. Now, I'll say it again, this is a birthday that just hits different. It's really hard to put it into words. It's kind of like a dose of reality. So is 40 to women like 50 is to men? Is it like a midlife revelation? Now, if you're listening to this and you're in your mid-30s looking ahead at turning 40, maybe you're feeling some type of way about this too. Or if 40 is behind you, then maybe you can relate. Now, I sat down with two childhood friends to talk about how life turned out and how they feel about turning 40. Now, I've known both of these ladies since we were in our teens, before kids, before college, and before our career started. So it was a lot of fun to talk about the last 2 decades and really reflect from the life we thought we were going to live to the reality of how it's actually going, how we feel about this new decade and all that comes with it. After I stopped recording, the conversation continued well into the evening over a glass of wine. Okay, maybe a couple glasses of wine, lots of laughs, and lots of stories from way back in the day. Oh, how we have changed and yet stayed exactly the same. If you know, you know. Here's what the girls had to say about flirting with 40. So girls, welcome to the Piece of Me podcast.
Hello. Thank you. Good to be here. Having us.
Absolutely. So I am joined by Katie and Suze, and today we're going to talk about what it's like turning 40 because it is a thing all in itself, and we might be feeling some type of way as one of us is already taking some deep breaths over there. So the struggle is real. I get it. All right. So we have some questions to ask of both of you, and I guess I'll start by saying that Katie, you just turned 40, what, a week ago?
Yeah. I guess it was a week ago now, almost. Yeah.
Wow. And then Suze, you've got a month or so to go?
September 3rd.
Okay. So we're approaching, but not quite there. Yeah. So the fun thing is we're kind of talking about, now myself, I'm now 40 and a half. Katie just came to the 40 side. And then Suze, you're on your way there.
On my way.
All right. So let's talk about how you guys feel about this. So Katie, I'll start with you. How do you feel about having turned 40?
It's a mix of things, kind of. Mostly pretty positive, honestly, because when you stop and really think about it, you're lucky to turn 40. We come from a small town and it's unfortunate that some people we know didn't get to make it to 40. And here we are. And there's still a lot of life to live. There's still so much to experience and do. And then there's also just like the reality of like, okay, I'm 40 now. And like, when I do something that hurts me physically a little bit, it might be a little harder to recover than it was when I was 20. So it's mostly an upside, but yeah, there's just some unfortunate realities to it too, I suppose.
Yeah. I love what you said though. It's true. It's not everybody makes it here. So let's keep it, look at the positive.
Yeah.
So Suze, you still got a couple weeks left there, but you're 39 and approaching. So how do you feel about turning 40?
Well, I'm holding on tight to the last bit of 39 that I can. And I feel pretty grateful about turning 40 because, a few years ago after I had my second child, I really questioned like how much longer I would live because that's how terrible I felt. Um, and so I'm not dying or anything, but um, the fact that I'm turning 40, I'm like, oh wow, I'm here. I made it. And yeah, I feel pretty lucky, and also I feel like I've come to some acceptance of the way my body works now, and it's like a really freeing thing to not feel so weighted down by what I think I should be able to do and what I used to be able to do.
What do you mean by that?
Well, physically, I took a big hit after I had my daughter about 5.5-ish, a little more years ago. And it was like a real hard and fast, like, nope, your body's totally different than what it was like even, right before I was pregnant with her. So I feel like some people gradually age. Obviously, we all gradually age, but I had this real big kind, and that wasn't an accident, but it was an event that caused my body to just really change. And so I was kind of like shoved into the reality of like, well, you're gonna feel very old very quickly, and so I think I totally lost my train of thought.
That's what happens when you turn 40. So,
But I feel good for 40 now, and I feel really lucky to be here.
yeah, no, I love that. That's great. All right, cool. So yeah, turning 40 is, and I'll share my 2 cents on this. So this might seem a little bit negative, but for me, like looking at the longevity in my family, so my dad's side has more longevity, my mother's side does not. So to me, this was kind of like, is this like not a midlife crisis, but is this the halfway point? Because I don't know if I'm going to live much past 80. So for me, this was kind of like the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And I kind of had some epiphany moments of, is my life going the way that I want it to go? Am I on track to do whatever it is that my goals are, or the things I want to see in life? And there was definitely wow, it's, I got to look at life a little bit different, because, the first half of life, there's a lot of firsts, right? There's, some of us go to college, or, finding your first job, buying your first house, having your first child, getting married. There's a lot of exciting firsts that come with that, and even, turning 21 and 18 to vote, whatever it is. There's so many exciting things that happen in the first half of our life, but there's a lot of exciting things that happen in the second half, but it just sometimes, that kind of real life moment, you know what I mean? Just makes you kind of think about it in a different way.
Well, yeah, and I think we celebrate a little differently as we get older too, whereas like the whole world kind of celebrates, or at least, here in the United States anyway, we all celebrate turning 18. We all celebrate turning 21 because there's things that you can do that you wouldn't be able to do before. Whereas like, when you turn 40, like, okay, what can you do that you didn't do before? And it's like, there probably are things that you can do now that you couldn't do when you were 30 or 20, but we don't necessarily, but like, I think who we choose to celebrate that with also gets a little smaller, but it also gets more intimate and more personal and more valuable, really.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think that's true. It's, some of us do have big plans for our 40th, or, we're thinking about, or if you are thinking about it, I think that this is one of those milestone birthdays that should be celebrated. This is a big deal, especially for women. I think I don't know if it's the equivalent like for men turning 50. I don't know, but 40 is a big deal.
Yes. Yeah.
So actually, Katie, you brought up a really good point. Let's talk about that. So how did you celebrate turning 40?
I was on a trip with my family. I don't call it a vacation anymore because when you're away with young kids, it is pretty far from a vacation. We were in what I would consider my happy place, like where my husband and I got married. We were on the beach. I got some takeout, even ordered dessert, which I don't do that often anymore. That's another fun thing about turning 40 is that, it can be really hard to lose those pounds if you pack them on at all. But I lived and enjoyed dessert with my family, and I enjoyed a day at the beach with them. And, that was basically my celebration. And, this is also kind of a celebration too, because I'm hanging out with 2 really great friends right now. And then, we'll see. I'm sure another person that I see, it'll kind of be like in passing, like, oh, happy birthday. Let's cheers to that. So I'm kind of still lightly but intimately celebrating.
I love that. I love it. Now, Suze, you still got a few weeks to go here. So any plans for you for your 40th?
Well, we are supposed to go to Michigan in a few weeks. And actually my husband and I's 10-year anniversary is the second to last week of August. So that's kind of the thing that we're like, oh gosh, we got to celebrate that. But then my birthday's after that, and I haven't thought too much about it. And we don't have like family nearby. So as far as childcare, we don't have too much childcare for like going out to dinner, but we might like, go out to dinner or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of, I don't know, kind of leaving it up to Josh, like whatever he feels like doing, because I'm not like a huge, like, I don't need a huge party or anything like that. But yeah, maybe just like someone will bring me coffee in bed.
Coffee in bed, yes, I like that.
And maybe I don't have to empty the dishwasher. That'd be great.
Yeah, little help around the house would be. That goes a long way. That is appreciated for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely an important birthday. No, I love that. So let's kind of shift into, this is a time of reflection. It's a time to kind of, again, look back on the things you've done, the experiences you've had, and maybe either realize maybe what you haven't gotten to do yet, or things might look different, than where you thought you would be, let's say. So let me ask you both. Katie, I'll start with you. Are you where you thought you'd be in life? Is this kind of where you expected to be at age 40?
Yes and no. I think I thought I would still have been in the career path that I was on with the degree that I had. I had a degree in psychology and had been working with children on the spectrum for a number of years. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. But I completely shifted out of where I was professionally, and now I've shifted into what I previously did, which is in retail, and I'm really happy to be doing that because I honestly didn't think I was going to get back into retail until I was like retired. And that's not the case, and there's still more opportunity growing there. I think I thought that I would have kids by now, and that's certainly part of my life. But as for like, financially and, where we live and stuff, I don't know that I ever was really certain of like, yes, I'm going to live close to my hometown or I'm not. I think I kind of knew that like the wind was going to take me where it was going to take me. But as far as like being happy with it, at least, like, yeah, I have a lot to be happy and grateful about with where I am in life. And I'm grateful for those years that I spent in human services. I'm sure I probably wouldn't be who I am without them, but I'm also grateful to have closed that chapter of my life.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
They're just good answers of, I love that you said too, you had a passion that you used to have. And even though it was different than what you went to school for, but that's the path that you're on, that's what your career has been and become. And you have opportunity in that, but you're doing something that you love.
Yeah.
So it's okay to switch paths. It's okay to switch gears. Like
totally.
we all find, you think back to going to college and, I know there was a little bit of that worry of like, well, what happens if I go for this and then I go into a career that doesn't align with that major, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But we all found our way.
We all find our way. And I think it's a lot more normal than that is actually something I tell my younger self too, is like, it's going to change or it might change and that is okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So Suze, how about you? How are you?
What's the question again?
So the question is, are you where you thought you'd be in life? Like location, family, all the stuff.
I guess I was kind of, I never really thought I'd be living in the same house that I grew up in, raising my kids and having their bedrooms be my bedroom and my brother's bedroom. So that's kind of weird, but also really great because, I'm super comfortable and familiar with the house and I have all my childhood memories there. That's awesome. I guess, some things that I wish we were a little more financially stable. I'm sure everybody wishes that, on some level. So. But I did stay home with both of our kids. So like my son is 10 and my daughter's 5. So really like 10 years of like me essentially not working. I did some stuff on the side, but Josh just went to work and, grounded out every day, and I took care of the kids in the house, and that's what we did. And, which is great because I got a lot of time with my kids, and, they weren't, in daycare for hours and hours every day. But now we don't have a lot of extra money to do anything. But we have a house that is paid for, and we are making it every day, and so there's like plenty of stuff that we do have that I'm grateful for.
You make it work. You make it work with what you have.
With what you have, yeah. You can
Absolutely.
always you can always find something wrong with everything, and always focus on what you can't have and what you don't have, but we're doing okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll add to this too. So where I am in life, this is where I thought I would be. So I always knew I never wanted children of my own, but I did wonder if, as I got later in life, if I would worry or wish I had. So that was always something that, will I ever regret it? And then if I did regret it, would it be too late? So, but I always kind of knew I didn't want them, but I did worry like, okay, maybe when the clock was running out and there wasn't really so much time. So, but I would say no. I mean, I'm really happy with that personal decision of my own. I mean, obviously I have stepkids and they're wonderful. So it's a different type of experience, but having my own, I'm okay with that. And that's, given me different opportunities in some ways as well. Some different flexibility, but location. Yeah, I definitely thought I would be living out of state. I think I did think I was going to live somewhere outside of the state that I grew up in. That hasn't happened yet. It's still kind of part of the plan. But I still have time. So that will come. Financially, I'll say this is more so of a career thought that I did think, because I went to school for one thing, that's the path I was going to take in life. And I guess podcasting is kind of a variation of that in a way, but I did find a different field than I thought too.
Yeah.
And so, and I've been enjoying it, learning so much every day. So I would say I'm grateful for that. And, but definitely a different path than I thought. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So this is kind of a fun question. And I was just talking to you girls a little bit offline about this because it might seem like such a corny question, but when this was asked of me, it really made me kind of stop in my tracks and really think back to like a time where, I don't know, it just kind of, I think so many times in life we do run on autopilot. We're so busy with kids, with career, life, family, whatever it might be. And it's like, sometimes it is hard for us to kind of stop and smell the roses or to do something for ourselves or to make ourselves a priority when we have so many other people in our life to make a priority too. So to really feel like you're enjoying your best life or that you're having this epic experience, that doesn't always happen because we got other stuff going on, right? So the question is, when was the last time that you felt alive? So really enjoying that moment and just feeling like, okay. So this is a tough one. And if you don't have anything, that's okay. But Katie's got a big smile on her face. So I'm going to start with Katie on this one.
Okay. Yeah. No, I do have a really recent one actually. And I don't even know what day of the week it was on our trip, but my husband and I had one kid on a boogie board each. And they're the boogie boards that, they Velcro to your arm too. And we were dragging them along the beach probably for like a mile to get to this little island because the tide had gone out. And they were like laughing and falling off the boogie boards and getting back on. And, then they get up and run and I would get up and run too. And God, I felt really alive and happy and good enjoying that moment with my family. Like, I just felt like, wow, I'm so lucky that I can physically do this with my family. Like, I'm running around and I'm like riding waves on boogie board with my 6-year-old, which was like, I don't care. It's time to be a giant 10-year-old when you're at the beach. That's the most fun you can have at the beach. And I felt so alive and great. I really did. And, I don't know if I felt alive and great being 40 or just alive and great in general. I think that wasn't even on my mind. It just felt so alive and so good. It really did.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. It's a tough question too. So, Suze, how about you? Can you think of any?
This one kind of strikes a chord because, like, not to be a downer, but like I've like struggled with a lot of physical pain for the past 5 years. Sound like a broken record. So the last time I felt like like not like alive and happy and not afraid of like how I was going to hurt myself was probably before I had my daughter. And there was just this very abrupt change after her that like, you know, it was like living in two different bodies. And so before her, I just remember like, yeah, I think maybe I was even pregnant with her. I was like in Cape Cod and I was on vacation. I was walking down the beach and I took a picture of myself and I was like, yay, I had my little boy behind me and he was happy and 5. And, and I think that's just what's coming to mind. There were plenty of other moments. But I just remember like, I think I've gotten used to living in, you know, this kind of state of being afraid of pain. I'm not in any real pain right now, but it's like a very regular occurrence. So the last time I felt alive in that sense, where I felt like not afraid, would have to have been about 5 years ago.
But, you know, you say that kind of jokingly, but the truth is, I mean, as you get older, right, you know, things happen to our bodies, energy levels change. You know, we might, you know, hopefully not, but something could happen to you, you know, physically or health wise. And, you know, I mean, that's part of life. So, you know, you've been struggling, you said, I think for 5 years or so, or maybe it was for some time.
Yeah. What is it? So she's 5 plus the 9 months I was pregnant. I don't know, somewhere around 5 or 6 years. Yeah. So.
And that shapes you too, because like you said, you're almost like fearful of having something that could cause more pain.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just a very different life that I live now. And I'm not ungrateful for it. And actually in a lot of ways, it has like caused so much growth and so much like respect for people that are disabled and or just, you know, I just had no idea what it was like to live in a body that felt like this as opposed to living in the body that felt like that. And I'm like, oh, now I teach yoga still once a week. And I teach to like people that are really old, really tight, really in a lot of pain. And I could never teach them before because they didn't understand what it felt like, you know? And
different
now I'm like, I've got this. Like, I know how to help these people.
That's a huge gift to give.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah.
Now, Suze, when you were mentioning just the body now versus the body then, Katie, you started nodding your head and you said you agreed with that. So why did you agree with her statement?
Because I've dabbled in some chronic pain too. I had chronic pain for like just shy of a year that still kind of comes and goes at times. And living with chronic pain is
mentally very challenging.
Yeah, it's super mentally challenging, and my heart goes out to people that live with it. I really did. I really do. And I don't think had I not decided to have children, and same with her, we might not have experienced the chronic pain that we both experience. Some of it being a little different than you know, some of mine being a little different than hers, of course. But like, pregnancy takes a huge toll on a woman's body. It really, really does. And so, yeah, that's the nodding in agreement. It's like, yeah, I know, because and being pregnant is different for everyone too, you know, like neither one of us really loved being pregnant, you know, like I was in a lot of pain when I was pregnant and I thought it was just normal what I was going through, but it actually wasn't. And I didn't learn that until well after, you know, so.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And Suze, you were just kind of nodding along there too.
Yeah. Just remembering like the stuff that you went through and the stuff that, you know, you currently go through.
Yeah.
And, you know, and yeah, it's just kind of like, it's a fork in the road when you like have kids or you don't have kids or whatever. It's like a path. And, one will lead you, and I mean, you get different experiences as you know, like it with each path. And, sometimes I'm like, I mean, I've never looked at my kids and been like, you weren't worth it. I've always been like, especially when I was like in the pits of like what I was going through when my daughter was like, you know, 1, 2, and I would always look at her and I never once was like, felt angry at her. Yeah. It wasn't her fault. And I found that so amazing. I was like, I do not hold this against you at all.
Yeah.
But it was really hard for me. And I'm glad I had a lot of help from my parents. And, you know, and I did get better. Yeah,
Mhm.
much better.
Yeah, no, that's a good perspective to share. And I'll go back to the whole feeling alive thing because I have something that I feel like it was like a life lesson for me too in the moment. But so for my 40th, I don't even know if I shared this already in this episode, but I decided to share my 40th in Key West, Florida. So I wanted to be kind of in the tropics, but not too far, I guess, out of the States. And love Key West. If you've never been, definitely go check it out. And it's beautiful, the turquoise waters and the whole thing. So for me, my girlfriend and I, this is actually not part of my birthday. This was a separate trip, but I'd gone to Key West again. But anyway, we had done a jet ski tour. Now I've never been on a jet ski. She has, she's really good at it. She knows what to do. And right before the tour started, they asked us if anybody had ever been on a jet ski before. And most people, except for myself and one other girl, and I think there might have been 15 of us. So 13 people all had experience except for myself and this other girl. So they lined us up on the jet ski tour where I was second to last. So the slower you were, you went towards the back of the line. So here we are, out in the middle of the ocean off the Florida Keys, doing this jet ski tour. And let me just tell you, I've never been on a jet ski. I thought it would feel smooth in the water. I thought, oh, this is like, it's going to be so cool. I was scared out of my mind. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be that much fun, but I'm going to go for it because she's like, oh, it's going to be great. So we go out in the water, and many times there were two like jet ski tour guides. One of the jet ski guys he kept coming back to me because I was in the way back. He actually had me switch positions with the girl who was ahead of me, or I'm sorry, she was behind me. So I was second to last. They actually moved me to the back because I was that slow. I was holding up the entire tour. Okay. So I just, these people probably hate me, but here we are in this tour and I feel like I'm flying. I was going 18 plus miles an hour, which, and if anyone who's jet skied is listening, you might be shaking your head, but to me, I was flying and the ride is so rough. I had no idea. So I'm white knuckling it, whatever. Okay. We're like an hour plus into this tour. I am so ready to go back to land. I can't even tell you. My girlfriend, I don't even know where she is. She's so far ahead in the line. I haven't seen her in the last hour. But anyway, so we start to make our way kind of back to shore, but you can't see the land. We're out in the middle of the ocean. I can see cruise ships. I can see whatever. And I do remember that the very last part of the tour, they were letting people kind of just go do whatever. Like, let them get a little crazy on the jet ski. You can go kind of fast. You can do some like little twirly things. I don't know what they're called, but they were letting people kind of freestyle and have some fun with it. Again, I'm like, I just don't want to fall off because if I fall off the water, you're not getting me back on this jet. I need a ladder. I need like a crew of 10 men that are going to pull me out of the water and get me back on this jet ski. So my goal was just to stay on and not fall off and, survive it. So anyway...
So nice little self-esteem builder, isn't this?
This humbled me really quickly.
Yeah.
So I remember, again, I told you guys I was really slow. Well, I was so slow that at some point I looked up, my tour was gone. I couldn't see anyone else on the tour. And here I am out in the middle of the ocean. I don't even know which direction land is. And I just kind of freaked out. I had a complete moment of panic where I thought, oh my gosh, they've left me. Like the tour is done. They're heading back to shore. I don't even know which direction the shore is in. And I'm out here. Like I'm going to get eaten by sharks and that's the end of me. So anyway, that whole panic moment kind of shifted. And all of a sudden I kind of like when I was still idling the jet ski's still on, but I let it kind of float there for a second. And I just looked around and I'm like, holy cow, I've got, turquoise waters, the most beautiful, the sun is shining. It was warm out. I'm covered in salt water, but it was great. But it was just one of those, like, this is the most beautiful experience I think I've ever, and I'm in the middle of it. I'm in the middle of the ocean. When am I ever going to do that again?
Yeah.
Probably never. But here I am. I've taken this risk. It scared the heck out of me, but I was doing it. I was doing it. Yes, I was the slowest one, but here I am. I'm doing it. It was kind of one of those things where you don't always have to follow the path of everybody else. And it was kind of this moment of, enjoy these 30 seconds before the tour guide comes back and finds me and brings me to land. But it was just, this is so cool, right? Like, and it was one of those things in life, like that life lesson of, sometimes you don't have to do what everybody else is doing. Yeah, it's okay to go your own path. It's okay to take a moment to smell the roses because, and that was just, I felt really alive in that moment. It was just, I took a second to look around. So all right, so let's go to, you girls both mentioned your children, and I want to ask you, besides your children, what are you most proud of? Yeah, they're both looking at each other right now and kind of wondering how to answer this one.
I'm proud of having a really great marriage, a really solid relationship with my husband, and I'm really proud of where I am in my career.
Love that. Yeah, that's great. For sure.
Yeah, I'd have to say, that's so tricky because I think like with your kids and your husband, you see them every day and you're like, you don't really look at them as that. Like, but I'm very proud of Josh. He has like kept us afloat for many years. And he's a very good human being. That's fine. And I'm proud of like what we have so far.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. I know it's tough because we've had a lot of life now underneath our belts. Okay. So this is kind of I love these types of questions because I think it's a little bit of reflection, but also, there's a lot of things we've learned, right, along the way, and we've known each other for many years now. So what things would you tell your younger self? What advice? What would you tell your younger self?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, really.
So many things.
Yeah. It could be a couple things. It doesn't have to be just one.
Go ahead first.
Broad spectrum of it would maybe just be like, chill out, girl. Just, chill. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. Maybe get over yourself a little bit. And just don't ride that anxiety train too hard, like just things are going to happen as they're going to happen, and stop worrying about what you can't control.
That's good advice.
I think I would have wished that I would have been a little more confident, not like confident, but just like okay with who I was and not trying to be, somebody that I wasn't.
Yeah.
And not trying to like find myself in somebody else, find my meaning in somebody else. Or, just being like being my own person.
Yep. Yeah. So what would you say to that, to your younger self then, if you're like trying to find that confidence or being your own self?
I would say, you're perfect just the way you are. And, I guess that, because I felt very like imperfect for a long time and like, well, I gotta be like this and I gotta be like this. And it doesn't, I'm not worthy if somebody doesn't love me. If somebody's not in love with me, then what is my worth,
Yeah.
Boring.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, dating, you think about the people we've dated and the relationships. We learn so much from, that could do a whole episode just on dating and relationships.
Yeah. It's like the reflection back on your younger self and your cringe moments, or just like getting over the, like, they said it on Sex and the City back in the day, he's just not that into you. I wish I could have heard that and internalized that when I was younger and just moved on, because there was certainly some wasted time on some people that were clearly not worthy of what I had to offer. So, that goes on that whole like anxiety train of like, stop riding that train and just get off of that and go enjoy and do you. And I'm glad that I spent time being single and doing, and getting to know me. But, I wish I could have like, and I did do a fair amount of embracing it, but then there were times when I just couldn't embrace it. And I just like felt unworthy. Like, like you said, like I just felt like unworthy somehow. And it's like, if I could like go back and give myself a swift kick, a swift kick, I would, and just say, stop, like just enjoy yourself. Because I was fine who I was.
Yeah.
Don't know I want to be friends with her right now, but just
with your younger self.
Yeah, do you?
That's interesting. Yeah, I love that perspective that you wouldn't want to be friends with your younger self.
Maybe
I feel like our younger selves were so self-absorbed, and like just like had all the priorities in the wrong order.
Yeah.
So I look at like a 25-year-old me, I'm like, oh gosh, like why did you do that? But yeah. I guess I sometimes, like having a daughter, I look at my daughter, Inga, and I'm like, oh gosh, like I hope she doesn't do what I did, because that's going to kill me to have to watch her like torture herself the way I did. And I'm sure, I totally like, took years off my mother's life, I'm sure.
Didn't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for sure.
But, I guess that's just the way it works. And, you just get through it.
You do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say for me, I think, Katie, kind of, you're saying this already, but just everything will fall into place. When you're young, there's so much ahead of you, right? So it's just like, just know it's all going to come together. It's all going to work out. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to. But yeah, would I be friends with, now you've said that, now I'm thinking about that, like how you mentioned, you're like, I don't know if I'd be friends with the 25-year-old version of myself.
I
love that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a different person. It's just good. I mean, it's all about the growth and development, and we learn a lot.
Totally.
Like, do you guys feel, especially this is not, something we were planning on talking about, but do you feel like you have a different, different type of confidence now? Do you worry less about the little things? Do you, kind of let those things go? Have you felt that kind of shift with getting a little bit older?
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And it's one of those, I think an earlier question I answered, I was like, it's so freeing to like not care as much because like, let's take, for example, like I'm never going to look like I'm 19 again.
I hear that.
So I can sit here in my 39-year-old body and be like, I am going to like try so hard to get this back. Or I can like just take care of myself, not giving up at all, but just letting go with grace. And being like accepting and finding the beauty in being 39 or 40, and just being like, oh, this is like a new type of beauty.
There's beauty in wisdom.
Oh, for sure.
And in confidence, right? Yes. There is something really attractive about knowing who you are, having some confidence, and not stressing about, like, I know for me too, I was worried about what other people think. And I still do. I still worry what others think.
We all do to some extent.
Right?
Because you're not giving up.
Yeah. Right. You do worry, how is this going to be perceived, or whether it's your career, what are people going to think if you shift, or if you move out of state, or if you end a relationship or start a relationship, whatever it might be. But yeah, I definitely, I've heard that before, is as people, not just women, but as people get older, they do care less about what others think. And I'm seeing it now at 40 for sure.
Yeah. No, it is
nice.
It's freeing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, especially from the 20s of just getting so hung up. And I think, Katie, you were talking about this earlier with guys and in the relationships. Oh my gosh, all the tears and the headaches, the stress we went through to prove ourselves to men who were not even men. These were like kids, boys, right?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I know.
It's like, this is what I have. Take it or leave it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And, and there's confidence in your 40s that, when you turn 40 that like, you kind of play with too. Cause when I went to the beach, I wore a 2-piece and I felt so darn good in that thing. I really did. And then a group of 20 somethings plopped down next to me. And suddenly the only thing I could see on my legs were spider veins.
Aww.
And it didn't even feel like a 2-piece anymore because, I don't know if you guys realize this, but nobody under the age of 30 wears a full bottom anymore, it would seem.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So all of a sudden I didn't feel as great as I thought I was going to in my 2-piece bathing suit, 40 years old on the beach. But I let it go and looked at my family around me and thought to myself, like, and maybe these girls were thinking it, maybe they weren't, but, I can certainly remember being in their shoes, looking, or their suits or lack thereof, and and thinking, I wonder if I'll have that one day, a loving husband, 2 adorable children, and I do have that. And, who knows what was going through their minds. And, I'm sharing what was going through my mind right now, but I obviously wish them all the happiness. And, this one made a good point. So she's like, well, they're going to be 40 one day too. And I'll probably have to look down at some spider veins.
Everybody gets old.
Everybody gets, or, or you have the privilege of getting there at least,
Exactly.
Well said.
It's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I love how you think of it from that perspective. What we think, again, this is like, we're thinking, oh gosh, those girls wearing these tiny bikinis and the metabolisms that they have that we no longer have and all the stuff, right? but maybe they are looking at us thinking, oh, look at her kids. They're so cute. And oh my God, her husband is so sweet. He's helping her do that thing. And, you know, she's had 2 kids and, you know, she's rocking a bikini, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's such a good point that it's,
you don't know what's going on in their minds.
Yep. I love that. All right. So final question as we wrap this up here. And I'm just kind of curious. So we've talked about kind of the first 40 years of our life, but what are you looking forward to next? So when you think about whether it's the next year, the next couple of years, maybe it's beyond that, but what are you most excited about? What are you looking forward to?
You want to go?
Yeah, sure. I'm looking forward to, I mean, we just have like, you know, some kind of like regular, you know, classic American plans. Like, you know, we're hoping to take the kids to Disney in the next couple of years because we feel like they'll be a better age for that. We're hoping to sell our current home and get something more in line with what we've always dreamed of living in. And I'm looking forward to the next few years of my career and seeing how that's going to shape up. So yeah, you know, just kind of those classic, like all American things. And also just, you know, enjoying, and maybe this is going to be the best decade ever. I don't know. 30s were actually pretty great, you know, so let's just see what this has to bring me.
Love it.
True.
Love it.
Think about that. The decade of 40.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd have to say I'm looking forward. Yeah. Pretty similar. Like, oh man, we really need a new kitchen. And, we really need a lot of things. The house needs a lot of work, which is like kind of nice to like always be looking forward to like a new project. And even if it's not immediate, like someday we are going to have a nice kitchen and a new garage. And, I'm not so sure I'm as eager for the kids to grow up more because I know the older they get, the bigger the problems and the scarier the problems. And like, as much as I'm grateful to not be in like the sleep deprived state and like, following a baby around the house, like that's great. But I'm also like when they're driving or when they're like spending time with people that I question, like, that sounds really hard.
It does.
But yeah. It's nice to be where we are for this moment.
Mm-hmm. I like that too because I feel like, especially when you're a homeowner, there's always a project. There's always something. Oh, yeah. Katie, we were just talking about this. There's always something that has to get done, but almost looking at it like, it always keeps you looking forward to something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someday.
I like that.
It's pleasant fun to redo this house.
Yeah. It's pleasant to see the outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a good project.
Yeah.
I like that. I love that. Well, girls, thank you so much for being here on the Piece of Me podcast. It's been fun to do this because we go way back. So
way back.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Way back. Way back. So it's kind of, it's fun to hear, we spent a lot of time together in our teens and 20s, and then to hear where we are now and kind of look back and appreciate, have a different perspective and look forward. So
sure.
Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Before you go, I need your help. If you're listening to this show on Apple Podcasts, scroll all the way down and give the Piece of Me podcast a positive rating and review. You can also support the podcast by subscribing to this show on Spotify, Apple, Pandora, or wherever you listen. To stay connected, follow the Piece of Me podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and at the website pieceofmepodcast.com.